The two-wheeled adventure continues. In our last video, we were leaving British Columbia, heading into Alberta, and from there we headed to Saskatchewan before heading into Manitoba. But the time has come to leave Canada and start making our way south back into the lower 48.
A new place, a new home, for a while, let me feel alive. Nothing to hold me back, take my time, just enjoy the ride. A new man passing by, life is good, best I've ever felt. Get me up, somewhere new, somewhere I can find myself. Oh, I feel so alive. As I reach out to the sky. I found my way. I was in the dark against it all, but made it through the day. Cause I found my way. In bad times, I know I'll be okay. Cause I found my way. I was in the dark against it all, but made it through the day. Cause I found my way. In bad times, I know I'll be okay. Cause I found my way. Cause I found my way. Cause I found my way.
The canola fields were everywhere as we crossed through Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and even a little bit of North Dakota. But as we made it down into the lower 48, we managed to stop at the Mississippi Headwater State Forest and get to touch the beginning of the Mississippi River. We were met by some rain, no big deal. I gotta say, this trip, 45 days long, had very little rain in it. I would say maybe 5, maybe 6 days of rain, and it never rained all day. So we really lucked out with the weather. And I think I brought it up in earlier videos that we saw lows of 35, but majority of our trip was in the 50s, 60s, 70s. We got to enjoy a couple more nights of camping. Wish we would have done more of that, but the way the schedule ran, we didn't get to do as much as we thought we would. And it was time to head into Michigan's Upper Peninsula, which I really enjoyed this part of the trip. Seeing the different lakes and the different communities we rode through. People also commented and asked about some of our motorcycle problems in the trip, and they were few. But we ended up having a couple flat tires. We had a minor electrical glitch. A couple minor things like that. We had to do some repairs, but I think for us, we get happiness out of solving our motorcycle problems. So we really love the challenges. Leave it to Bob to always find dirt. We love roads less traveled, but we don't all agree on the dirt. And Bob manages to find dirt wherever we go. This road, for instance, was up near Lake Superior. Here's a picture of Lake Superior, and it was beautiful. We really, really enjoyed the Upper Peninsula. We got to see a lot of miles of Lake Superior. It was a lot of fun to ride along that. And then on the following day, we managed to ride alongside of Lake Michigan, as seen here. And Lake Michigan was equally as beautiful. We rode through a number of towns before reaching the Mackinac Bridge. And the Mackinac Bridge took us out of the Upper Peninsula and down a little further south, where we were going to go off and see another one of the Great Lakes. So I was talking earlier about the motorcycle difficulties with the flat tires and some of the things that we had to fix along the way. But overall, out of the motorcycle issues we had, none of them ever sidelined us, ever resulted in going to a repair shop where a mechanic had to touch it. We were always able to figure it out, a hardware store or a motorcycle shop, to get the parts that we needed in order to fix or replace. And we did everything ourselves, which really felt good. As we head over the Mackinac Bridge here, I want to take a minute to talk about the people. The people that we met driving across this country, through Canada, getting up into the remote parts of Alaska, the remote parts of the Yukon Territory. Everyone, easily 9 out of 10 people, would approach us, want to know where we're going, where we came from. They had questions, and every single person that we met was extremely nice. They had a lot of questions about what we were doing, and I think we really enjoyed that. We had such a good time talking to people. We met people from Germany, from Spain, Argentina, Japan, China, just people from all over. And the locals would come up to us, and they would be, hey, where are you coming from? Or, and they would follow it up with, where are you heading to? And as soon as we would answer their questions, they would follow it up with half a dozen more questions. It was just so good to have these conversations and explain to people where we were going and why we were doing it. And it definitely made those breaks when getting off the bike and getting gas and maybe an occasional ice cream. It made those moments go by and mean something, because we weren't just off the bikes standing there. We were engaging with people who, again, 9 out of 10 easily were always interested in coming up to us and asking some questions. That was really cool. Another question that came up was, how did the four of us get along? Obviously, we've been friends for 10 years. Marty and I have been friends for 35 years. But Bob and Tony and myself have been friends for about 10 years. So how did that work? 45 days on the road, 4 different personalities. People were asking questions about that. And I got to say, everybody was extremely respectful of each other. Yes, all of us have little quirks and little things that might annoy the other person, depending on what part of the day it was. We got tired. The expectations of the group was always greater than the expectation of the individual. So for me, I always kept that in my mind, that this was a group effort, not an individual effort. And there were very few moments of strain or stress that came out of people. People may have hidden it pretty well, but anything that came out, I can count them on one hand. And we've followed other groups that have done similar trips, and we've seen it end ugly for some people who were friends and aren't friends anymore. Things that we follow on YouTube. And for this group, speaking for me personally, I think we actually became tighter. We became stronger friends because of this trip. We worked together more than we worked apart. Always willing to help the person next to you. And I think that was a big success for this trip, was the fact that we may not always agree, but we always found a way to compromise and come up with a plan to keep moving. And that was a big part of this trip's success. And I really thank Bob and Marty and Tony for their friendship on this trip. As we come off the Mackinac Bridge, we got into the Thumb region of Michigan and rode along Lake Huron. Had a real good time doing the Thumb region before reaching Royal Oak, Michigan, where we stopped to visit my wife's aunt, Aunt Elaine, and she was a great host. We had a very good time visiting with her. Her youngest son, Mark, and his one son, Tyler, came over, and we had a really good evening with them. Here we are arriving at Aunt Elaine's house, and we had a really nice time together. We even got Aunt Elaine on a motorcycle. Bob was able to take Aunt Elaine around the block on the motorcycle. Cheers to her. She's totally badass. We got up the next day and got to get a glimpse of Lake Erie. We didn't get to see a whole lot of it, but we made our way past Lake Erie and headed over to Cleveland, Ohio, where we went to visit with some of Marty's family. Some of his brothers and his one sister came over, and it was good to see Colleen and Mike and Michael and JD, and we went swimming. We ate great food. They were so accommodating to us. Mike even brought his guitar over so Marty could get his guitar jitters out. The pool was phenomenal. We really needed that. We toasted to adventures the long way, and of course finished the evening with a great fire before getting up the next day and making our journey down the Ohio Turnpike leading into the Pennsylvania Turnpike. There's Bob doing his fist bump as we cross back into Pennsylvania. And 95% of this trip, we purposely stayed off of turnpikes, expressways, major highways, and the group did an excellent job staying off of these types of roads, and we did that for a purpose. We really wanted to see the country, and you can't see it from the Pennsylvania Turnpike, so we avoided those roads. Lo and behold, when you get down to Detroit, Michigan, you really don't have a choice. I mean, you do, but it would just add hours and hours to your trip at this point. So 75 coming down from Detroit and getting onto the Ohio Turnpike and taking that into the Pennsylvania Turnpike, it's the way we had to go. And somebody said smooth sailing from here to us at a gas station. And we said, no, we're no dummies. This is where probably the most dangerous part of the trip was. This was the part of the trip that you really had to watch because so many people were just driving without paying attention. Their heads are in their phones and everything else, So we really had to be on our game as we rode these two turnpikes. Day started out beautiful leaving Cleveland, and the temperature just kept climbing and climbing. It quickly got into the 90s. And this is something we hadn't seen the entire 45 days of the trip until now. But part of life is about suffering, and the limits of discomfort that you are willing to overcome was a big part of this trip. It was things that we were uncomfortable with, and we got through it as a group. So heat was definitely not going to stop us at this point. So Pennsylvania Turnpike, making our way home, and Bob had enough of the PA Turnpike. So one of our rest stops, Bob approached Marty and I and said, "I'm out of here. I can't take this anymore." And I don't blame him, but it was going to add a little extra time to his trip to get to where he had to go. But we said our goodbyes with Bob and broke off from him, I would say somewhere around the Somerset area. And then Marty and I continued eastbound. And we were in touch with a couple retired Westchester police officers who were very interested in giving us an escort for the last 30 or 40 miles of our trip, and we agreed on a place to meet that was along the turnpike. And I was so happy to see these guys because it just kind of solidified that this trip was that good, that we had buddies that took time out of their Sunday to ride in this heat and come out and meet us and give us an escort to where we were going, to the end. And really appreciate, can't say enough, for Mike Martin, and Mike Euler, and Bill Chesko for doing this for us. It meant the world. And I know they all said that they were honored to do it for us, but I think Marty and I were the ones that were honored that they did this. It was just such a nice gesture, and it kind of really put a good cherry on top of the ice cream sundae, so to speak, and really appreciate those guys doing that. This trip will certainly go down as not being about the miles, but being about the memories, and I really believe in that. Here's Mike and Bill giving us an escort down the turnpike, and Mike would peel off and take Marty towards his house, and Bill, I shouldn't call him Bill. He was my sergeant for years and years, so I will call him Sierra 2. Sierra 2 took me all the way to my doorstep, and I cannot appreciate him enough. As I turned onto my street and made it about half of the way down towards my house, I saw some balloons out front, and I was like, that's pretty nice of my wife to do that. Then I started to see a bunch of heads, and as I turned into my driveway, I was met by the best neighbors in the world. They all came out and cheered me on as I got back into my own driveway, so I appreciate it.